morning. Welcome to Conspiracy Cafe. I'm your host, George Freund. We're with you now. We're with you to the end, even though we have to use the patented Google theme music that just gives you the magic chill ride. But we're still with you now and to the end. It's been a very interesting week, to say the least. The race to the end is in full speed. There's only one show, one host, that really delves into the very deep inner workings of the conspiracy, the cabal, the codes they use, the predictive programming they use, the mind control they use. And unlike the most popular show, InfoWars with Alex Jones, my family doesn't have a CIA background. They were hard-working people that, well, Grandpa was probably on the RCMP watch list because he wanted to start a third party here in Canada, one that, might bring in some revolutionary changes like health care so farmers wouldn't have to blow their brains out in the barn when they couldn't afford an operation or something like that. Just diabolical stuff. So we speak from the heart, not with spooks controlling us like puppets. See, it's very difficult for you to determine the parallel paths because they're parallel. Everything's fine. Could be fine for 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles, a trip to the moon and back. And then one day, the card has to be played. One of them makes a turn, and one is left behind. And that's how you know you've been played. There's so many levels of information. And most of the more popular alternative media shows only give you the pablum level, and they go no further. Even if they get it like a pie in the face, level 2, level 3, or more, they'll still stay with the pablum, and they won't give you any more. There has to be a reason for that. Maybe many more have CIA backgrounds. If we just look at the Benghazi incident, the pablum level is Ambassador Stevens knew they were selling weapons to Al-Qaeda. If we really did some research into news articles about that, we'd find out that that was probably published in the open back maybe a bush or two ago. So it's no big secret. In fact, you could probably go back even farther than that, because they were fighting a war against Russia and Afghanistan, that weapons were being sold to Al-Qaeda. Goes back to like World War II when it was the Muslim Brotherhood. They're selling weapons to Al-Qaeda. It's nothing new. That's the pablum level. That's like, mommy and daddy have a child coming in and you're 5 and they want to, it's from the Cabbage Patch. And you have to accept that and eat that. Of course, on Conspiracy Cafe, we've taken you up a notch, right at the very beginning, even when we did this little piece back in the day, Brave New World. And we talked about the killing of Ambassador Stevens. Of course, we like to make jokes and make light of things. And, we see how a leader in Israel dresses in his youth and how your Smokin' Joe president dresses in his youth. But one's a CIA man and one's more or not. Then we have this poor man. You see that 1,000-yard stare in his face, that he's being taken out. But then we get into just one little final detail that was published in the media. Is he was part of the Libya destabilization team. He traveled with Hillary Clinton. He met the Libyan rebel chief Mahmoud Jabral on May 14th, 2011. He spoke Arabic. He was the translator. He called in the airstrikes. He made the contact with the Al-Qaeda groups. And he knew where the bodies were buried. He knew where the money went. He was Hillary's translator. He knew everything. He knew all the secrets of the dark cabal. All of them. That's the second level. But see, no one's going to build up on that, because then you start to think for yourself out of the box. Your mind starts to get liberated because it's on an upswing. It's not on a controlled path, controlled demolition path. Then there's the next level, which we're playing with now, where we're doing some work, and I got to chain myself to my desk to write this stuff up. But there's things that happen sometimes that just blow your mind. And you're never the same after you learn these things, because you can't be the same after you learn these things. And as I told you on a previous show, I'm looking at this book, Ratline, Soviet Spies, Nazi Priests. And as I continue reading further about Hitler and company, the Nazis had a base in Indonesia, a tea plantation owned by Emil Helfrich. He was the chairman of the giant Hamburg America Shipping Company. He became chairman of an oil company you might have heard of, Imperial Oil, owned by, the establishment. 40 U-boats operated in and out of Indonesia near his plantation. The author of this book, Peter Levenda, and we have his coast-to-coast interview posted on our website, conspiracy-cafe.com, so you can hear it right from the author's thing about all the stuff about Hitler and the death of Hitler that they made up and all this. And see, that's the best escape plan you can have. If you're dead, you can just walk into any police station and say, I'm Adolf Hitler. They're just going to look at you and kick you out the door, even if you are, because you're dead. Officially, someone said you're dead. So it doesn't matter you're alive anymore. You can go anywhere, do anything. Even if you get caught, it doesn't matter. It happened to Martin Bormann, as I recall. He's dead. You can't be Martin Bormann. So he says on January 6, 1954, using the alias of Dr. George Anton Poch, he arrived in Indonesia
Benghazi, Libya,
with his wife. Then it turns out Nazi banker Hjalmar Schacht became Indonesia's economic advisor for some strange reason, the guy who knew where all the loot was buried. Muslim terrorists were active as Nazi soldiers were fighting the Allies. Now we step forward a few years and we end up in 1960, and the president's mother was there as part of USA aid. Hitler died in 1970, they said, and was buried there. Now we have to look at a country called America, and we see our Hitler guy from some of the internet pictures of Polk, World War I era, a more modern era, and in his old age with his honey buns. Then we have to wonder if this woman and this child being nurtured in Indonesia was nurtured for a purpose. You see, Ann Dunham, his mother, worked for USA Aid, which was a front for the CIA, part of the Ford Foundation. Then as I got into the next chapter, before I got here, there was one of those things where, my hair turns more gray and some more falls out. Because not only was Hitler's campaign slogan change, so was Obama's. And then, as I'm doing this next chapter, I find out in 1960 there was a US aid program called Operation Hope. Hope. I wonder what president used that for a campaign slogan. Hope. Yes, and a ship called the SS Hope checked into Indonesia, and the ship's doctor took copious records, actually met the Dr. Polk, Hitler, at his hospital, said he wasn't a doctor, didn't know shit about being a doctor, walked with a limp like Hitler did, had Parkinson's disease shake like Hitler did, spoke like Hitler did, was a flippin' nutbar like Hitler was, justified all Hitler's actions, and raised some young boys. One of them turned out to be a Cleveland serial killer, executed in 2011. He saw him there as a 7-year-old back in 1960. Hope. Hope springs eternal. We may figure this out and take our debate up 5 or 6 or 10 levels to deal with the threats that are coming at us today, so we can understand that our little boy, Barry Soeharto, or whatever he's supposed to be, Sotoro, alias Barack Obama, the man who had no history before he was a senator, except the stuff that was made up, a man with fake credentials, is the living embodiment of the revenge plan, Niederlage, of the Third Reich. And you wonder why America is turning fascist at a rate that even Hitler would marvel from his grave. It's very simple. You consume this shit every day, and it programs your brain. John Rappaport has an article here. Every television newscast is a staged conspiracy. So he goes through whatever they tell you and the manner they tell you. The staging is well done. Colors in the foreground, in the background, a blend of restful and charged hues, an anchor with his or her smooth style. That's why I'm glad to be a miserable son of a gun. The shifting of venue, studio reporters, field reporters, demonstrating the reach of the coverage as if it's authentic. The managing editor and the elite anchor choose all the stories and program your mind like a computer. Then they'll go into things like our story for tonight about, Capitol Hill and the gridlock, giving you so many options that you can choose from. So you listen to what they say, and you just think the government needs to do something, whatever it is. They talk about China and a flu epidemic. You fill in the rest: flu, dangerous epidemic, could it arrive here, and you tell yourself to get a flu shot. A new university study on gun owners stocking up on weapons and ammunition. This trend quickly since the Newtown, Connecticut shooting tragedy. Oh, people with guns, why do they need a dozen weapons? I don't need a gun, the police have guns, everything's going to be okay. Doctors at Yale University make a discovery as to a new treatment to battle autism. So we need more research, more laboratory, germs, the brain, things like that come into your brain, but it's predictive programming. You haven't thought about anything. Never occurs to you to ask questions about what they're telling you, because many of these questions are just not answered by these news media. So you're prepared to get sucked in, programmed, and think that you're free to make decisions. So he ends it with the Boston bombing, because basically they'll have a voice in a picture. They'll show you the picture, the voice fills in the thing, and you go, well, it has to be true. So the Boston bombing, you see a puff of smoke. A man falls to the ground. The news anchor says the FBI has announced a bomb was in a pressure cooker and it caused injuries and death. So you saw the pictures, you heard the voices, you believe it. Predictive programming, even though when it happened, they go a little bit about bombs, when they go off to make a big mess. The projectiles are moving at 3 times the velocity of a high-powered rifle bullet. So lots of people should have fallen down in the street, not just one. We only see the one, and then behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz does all those fake injuries and stuff with paint on the ground. He mentions the same thing about World Trade Center 7. Mentions the stuff about in the police station with Lee Harvey Oswald. Because he's in the police station, I saw all these videos there, you assume he's guilty. It's stage news. Just there for your convenience to draw the conclusions that are already made for you. And while we're on the topic of Lee Harvey Oswald, because he used it in that thing, our big Toronto News editor, you find him here in this little tiny shot, Peter Worthington, editor of the Toronto Sun, Korean War veteran, gentleman who worked for the United States Air Force intelligence and probably never stopped working for the intelligence. Person who just denied anything about a conspiracy about killing Kennedy completely and totally, passed away. And we may bring up some of this stuff again for the anniversary, but it is in my opinion that this was staged. We got some pictures there so I can be the news programmer here. Good stuff. Because when you look at these pictures that they give us, so we just think this happened, right? So there's a few things missing. And there's a few things there that are very important. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, it shows you that one of the big things is the blood splatter on his coat. He's got a nice clean coat. You ever cut yourself, like a real good one or something? Imagine a .38 going into your lungs. See, the big thing about lung injuries and stuff like that, because they're kind of aiming high, well, maybe they missed the lungs, got a liver or something like that. But you get, especially with a sucking chest wound, you get that spit and blood all over the place. You cut arterial blood, it's just like a little fire hose going up. You got 4 liters in there, right? It's going to come out, 10 times faster than you can pee because it's under pressure. You're going to get wet. He's clean. They used the same material in that jacket as the grass in front of the Pentagon on 9/11. But I know my guns. I know that's not the gun that's the murder weapon. That's got a square butt. You can see it. It's got a wood grip. Smooth. That looks more like a Smith & Wesson. And then there was this picture as he's being let in. You see 2 guys in the light coats. You see these guys standing on this side of the corner of that wall. Now there's only one guy with a white coat. The other guy disappeared for some strange reason. And these guys seem to be way over on the other side of the wall now. Of course, when a gun shoots in low light conditions, puts out a little bit of smoke and fire and light. And this is the actual murder weapon. A Colt with a hammer shroud so you can fire it from your pocket. And there's our gun. This was the gun that killed Officer Tippit. It's got the same square butt, and it's a Smith & Wesson. And the funny picture of some guy who looks like Oswald standing outside when the president shot and all that kind of stuff. So very, very unusual stuff. And then here's our man. The only guy who freaked out in the whole episode was Peter Worthington. Korean combat veteran, officer. And the big thing I always said is, like, when you're in the Army, you know, and you're going through like serious training and stuff like that, like, you can be standing anywhere, anytime. Anybody knows you've been in the Army. I worked with a guy who was in the, you know, Hitler Youth, because you had to be. And, you know, it was a police funeral. We had to go to march or something. Like, he does the goose step automatically. Like, the guys are just cutting cheese, man. Look at him march. Zig Heil. He's doing the goose step. You can't get it out. Right? Guys in the Army, you're on the parade square. See, the sergeant major goes around with a big stick with a brass end. Poof! Pops you one in a kidney or in the head or something like that if you don't stand upright. So he's like shuffling around with his hands in his pockets, like, you know, he's hanging out, waiting to get a role in West Side Story or something like that. Don't happen. Ramrod straight. You're always ramrod straight. You shit ramrod straight. You stand up ramrod straight. You don't go shifting around like that. The other thing is, you're a combat veteran. You hear a shot. He's the only guy who panicked. Put on a good light show there, you know. So I don't know. I cut to the chase. I said maybe he pulled the trigger. Stopped off in Washington on the flight down. They told all the other media to be there at another time, and he knew to go there at the right time. It just smells. Smells real bad. So I think he's our Canadian CIA man, and then in his old age they gave him a job running a major newspaper, so you can be programmed. As one chap here has an article, you know, our brains are simply a meat computer. And just like a regular computer, they're programmed. And there's not a whole lot people can do about it unless they do their own programming. So that's what your teacher used to say when you were really small: put your thinking cap on. Think for yourself, because then you're programming your own mind. They're not doing it. So let's look at some of the programming all these Bilderberg newspapers get, because all the editors go to the Bilderberg meetings, right? So this one was good, like yesterday, you know, rent a shotgun for $200. So they're doing their big gun control thing, even though they're not talking about gun control, but they're just saying, oh, guns are bad. So you get this, like they said, Rappaport said, you know, oh yeah, well, guns are bad. Oh yeah, somebody wants to have more than one. And well, look what happened at Sandy Hook and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, we got to do something about that. So they laid all the seeds to program your computer. And then this one's a classic. I like this one here. You know, Angelina Jolie says, you know, okay, we're in that one. Okay, let's just cut those boobies off, and then you won't get cancer. Nothing wrong with her. She's healthy. So, you know, I got my pocket knife here. I don't want to get testicular cancer. Just rip them babies off. Right? What about, you know, the prostate gland? Give me that knife. Oh, yeah, whip that baby out. So, and they can actually program you to disfigure your body, because you're a meat computer, and if you don't take the liberty to think for yourself, you're going to do what they tell you to do. What causes cancer? Breasts? No. I think I can say that with 100% certainty. How about radioactive plutonium left over from Cold War above ground nuclear testing? Well, that could do it. All kinds of carcinogens that are in the environment from chemicals. Yeah. Smoking? Maybe. Sure. That could do it. So whether you cut your breasts off or not, like if I stick some radioactive plutonium in your body, even a tiny little bit, you're going to get cancer, and it doesn't matter where you get it. It just goes for the weakest link. So if the weakest link on you was your breasts, they're not there anymore. So now you get it somewhere else. Maybe your lungs, maybe your kidneys, maybe your liver, maybe on your skin, somewhere, maybe in the spine. Ooh. doesn't stop you from getting cancer. But they can talk you into amputating parts of your body. It's brilliant. And you do it. There's probably going to be a lineup at these clinics. And then there's predictive programming. It goes on all over the place. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the Google code. This one is a big one today in the Globe and Mail. You got that camera? Okay, there we go. Life and Arts section. Today's Globe and Mail. I got little pictures from the internet. And they just name all kinds of targets, cities. This one really started to get me because we're talking about the J.A. Pan Company, and they've been taking it on the chin really, really bad. Most of it's in Japanese, but there's other little things about the Catholic Church. There's a Catholic church there, and the sand bath, 2 people on the beach under an umbrella, somebody walking with a tourist book, a bridge, and, you know, all kinds of little maple leafs. Maybe some Canadians are going to get it. But it just looks like they're drawing a blueprint for something that the people who know the code, they know what to look for, and the people who don't, well, you get burned because you don't even know there's such a thing. So these are some of the internet targets that came up from the rest of the photo series. It's a map of Munich, a film map, street maps of Los Angeles. Part of it was from a movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street in Jurassic Park, so there could be another nightmare coming down LA way. This one is London. So if you look at some of the fine print, you might even start to pick out some of the, you know, the targets. And we can't let the Finns get away from something, so you know, we have one of Helsinki, the whole Australian continent, and then shifted into a boomerang for one reason or another. And then, of course, the Japanese one. So these are areas that are accessible by train in Kyushu, Japan. It would be very interesting if just down the road or something like that there is a kerfuffle somewhere that causes that to happen. And then we'll know that certain people who know certain things know to mind their P's and Q's about places like that for some reason or another. And if we keep those pictures, like I did in the London bombing, the National Post had one the week before, in a place called the Avenue section, Avenue page in the National Post. The page number were the coordinates for London, and it just showed somebody with, you know, like mad scientists on top of the building blowing up buses and trains with a big cemetery in the distance. And it was something called War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And the guy killed on the bus was the president of the H.G. Wells Society, Giles Hart, the guy who helped with money laundering in the CIA days between the Vatican and Poland's Solidarity Trade Union. He got pensioned off. It's brilliant. It's all before your eyes. Pie in the face. You just have to open the eyes to see it. Put your thinking caps on. Think for yourself. All falls into place. This article here, U.S. driven by Nazi war machine. The moral corruption at the heart of government can be traced back to the end of the Second World War. America's clandestine partnership with the Nazi war machine made this increasingly possible. VE Day, which just happened really, that's Victory in Europe Day, was supposed to be a celebration, and we self-glorify ourselves, show off our moral superiority that we defeated German fascism. There was a secret pact between the Western governments, Washington in particular, and the remnants of the Nazi war machine. The absorption of Nazi military practice and intelligence into the CIA and other Western organizations had far-reaching pernicious consequences. 68 years ago, the United States and Britain were already drawing the battle lines for their next war against the Soviet Union. On 22 May 1945, Major General Reinhard Gehlen surrendered himself. He was Hitler's master spy on the Eastern Front. He traded his copious intelligence assets for liberty. He was wanted by the Soviets, was not turned over to him. As required by the Yalta Agreement, the Americans broke the agreement and put a big pie in the face of the Russians, starting the serious Cold War. This guy was welcomed with open arms. He even got to meet the president, Harry Truman, at the time. I think they gave him $1 million cash up front, put him on retainer for like $55,000 a year. A surgeon probably only made 20-something back in those days. He was good buddies with John Foster Dulles, Office of Strategic Services, who ultimately became CIA director. He recruited thousands of Nazi scientists, industrialists, militarists, and intelligence. That's all part of the Niederlage plan, the defeat plan, to infiltrate the United States and the Western Allies and take them over. And Vin Zavor for the man who died in 1970. The Gehlen Organization was the foundation stone of the CIA and NATO. I would even go so far to say as they were secret contract agents that worked very, very handily, up to and even including the assassination of President Kennedy, because they were like a secret part of the CIA. So they weren't part of the CIA. They were just, we just throw you money as a rabid dog, and you bite the people we tell you to bite. Thousands of former Nazi personnel were quietly released from POW camps or brought in from hiding to join the Gehlen Organization, members of the Gestapo, the Waffen-SS, and the Einsatzgruppen mobile killing squads. Christopher Simpson, in his book Blowback, that's another one you should get. Like, we have a whole list of books on the Conspiracy-Cafe website that you can buy from Amazon. I'm sure that one's on the list. So some of the, recuperable, salvageable people, Klaus Barbie, Franz Six, and Emil Augsburg, reemployed into NATO intelligence, espionage, sabotage, assassination operations. Key players in American-backed fascist dictatorships in South and Central America in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Circling the United States, coming up through the soft underbelly, as we said once. The consequences were a deep chilling effect on Western-Soviet relations, a de facto declaration of war. Gehlen became head of West German intelligence, the BND. He retired in '68, died in '79. The result was a gargantuan American military-industrial complex. Another president who fought World War II warned you about, and then you went back to sleep watching reality TV. Well, the reality comes up and bites your ass. So today it not only threatens the rest of the world with hyper-destructive power, but also the viability of American society completely. Every year we commemorate VE Day. The Army of the Third Reich surrendered on 8-9 May 1945, and we claim we saved the world from fascism, only to have let the German Nazi war machine into our hearts, into our minds, into our country, our army, and our Western intelligence services. An old soldier I ran into said that we took directly into the Canadian Army NCOs, non-commissioned officers, and junior officers, directly from the German Army after World War II and put them into the Canadian Army. You just had to spend 24 hours in Canada, you were given automatic citizenship, and you were given a rifle and put in charge in the Army. What the hell did we go to the war for? Oh yeah, right, oil. Lots of oil. Stalin nationalized the oil wells. U.S. military power grab goes into effect. So they've passed this monstrosity, a U.S. code titled Defense Support of Civilian Law Enforcement Agencies, quietly, while no one was listening. And then these guys, they're going to tell you to take that knife and rip them puppies off, but they're not going to tell you about this little part here. So in vague language, see, that's where laws, legalese is bad enough when you're specific, but when the language is very vague, you can make it anything you want. Federal military commanders have the authority in extraordinary emergency circumstances where prior authorization by the President is impossible and duly constituted local authorities are unable to control the situation to engage temporarily in activities that are necessary to quell large-scale, unexpected civil disturbances. So without any authority by anybody who's elected, like the sheriff, the governor, or even the federal bureaucracy, a commander can temporarily, and temporarily could be forever because it's not defined. There's no sunset clause on temporary. You see that in a lot of dictatorships. They seize power of the state temporarily, and 50 years later, when they're about ready to croak from a heart attack, the temporary ends and they get in a new guy, and he temporarily takes over. So temporarily can mean in legalese forever. And who's expecting all these large-scale unexpected civil disturbances? Well, that's probably when the economy goes down the drain and we got too many useless eaters in the street. We're going to have to do something about that. Good thing we went to that you know, Galen High School there, Reinhard Galen SS. Oh, SS. Secondary school, I meant. So there's no difference between then and now. So even though they have the Insurrection Act of 1807, the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, see, nobody can pronounce that because you can't go to school anymore to learn anything important. We're going to wipe all that away, and we're going to use like the same laws that says no different in the emergency powers the Weimar Constitution of the German Reich gave to the military. Well, we know what happened there. This is an unauthorized power grab. Add on to that the 2007 Defense Authorization Bill, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2008, the NDAA 2012. Somebody says here it has a chilling effect. I don't think it's going to be a Cold War. It's going to be a hot one. And the trouble is, you got a ringside seat because you're watching reality TV instead of looking at reality. The Benghazi buzz. Congress is investigating the alleged cover-up of the September 11, 2012 attack. Presidential candidate Mike Huckabee says, I believe that before it's all over, the president will not fill out his full term. This is not minor. It wasn't minor when Richard Nixon lied to the American people. It broke the trust between the president, the people, even though no one died. John Bolton, former UN ambassador, says the Benghazi scandal could lead to Obama's removal from office. I doubt that sincerely. And the reason I doubt that sincerely is they got the goods on all these senators and congressmen, and unless they want those secret dossiers exposed to their wife or the electorate or something like that, you know, they're going to keep their mouth shut. Nothing, you know. At least the one guy, remember the guy who was the congressman, he's in the hot tub with all the bimbos, and, you know, he got to go to the Middle East, to Pakistan, to do stuff way back when or something. Charlie Wilson. Well, at least he was upfront about that. But most of the wives aren't going to like those hot tub shots. You know, they got them in every office. The Obama administration initially claimed Muslims spontaneously rioted over a little-known online video that defamed Islam's founder. Evidence the administration knew from the beginning that it was a terrorist attack is being altered in all the paperwork. See, that's the beauty of being in charge and being a killer, is you get all the evidence and you get last pick on what's in and what's out. So you take out all the outies. That's the stuff about the Hitler thing, like the author of the book says in YouTube from Coast to Coast. All the documents about Hitler, even though they're 70 years old, are all redacted. You know, the only thing that's left is maybe the page number and a comma and a period and something that says Hitler, and all the rest is redacted out. Well, why is that important after all these years? It's very important. The reason it's important is that tells you it's still an active operation being used today. That's why. When everything's redacted, you pick the worst case scenario, that's what it says. It's common sense, it's logic. The Third Reich is alive! It's alive! It's turned into the Fourth Reich! And President Obama is the Fuhrer, hand-picked from his childhood. And it even said in my Hitler book, at the very end, the Fuhrer converted to Islam. So Obama, who has been campaigning on the claim that Al-Qaeda essentially were defeated, finds out State Department career worker Gregory Hicks says American resources were told to stand down, just like 9/11. Stand down. Well, it wasn't 9/11, wasn't it? Just 2012. Stand down. You must do that on the parade square. You know, you're marching left, right, stand down! Left, right, stand down! You know, the Marines and the Army got to do a little more like stuff. You know, when you get a stand down order like that, just shoot the guy who gave it to you because he's a traitor. Cut to the chase. U.S. Embassy officials in Tripoli, some 600 miles away, tried unsuccessfully to get the Pentagon to scramble fighter jets in a show of force, to get permission to deploy 4 U.S. Special Operations troops in Benghazi before and during the attack. Lieutenant Colonel in Tripoli, who commanded the Special Operations team, told them he was sorry that his men had been held back. Sorry. Received communication from Stevens saying, Greg, we're under attack. There are people who want to testify that have been suppressed. That's the other big thing they like to do. They say, shut up or you're dead. Shut up or you lose your job. Shut up or you lose your pension. Shut up or we'll open fire, you mothers! Same thing happened when they shot up the USS Liberty. The commanding admiral launched planes. President Johnson specifically told him to scratch the missing. And unfortunately, it's just too bad. Like, you know, you got to have like a joint collective thing, because the admiral who was involved later, we read about, like, they arrested him, held him away or something like that, because he didn't obey one of them unlawful orders from a guy who was born and raised to be Dr. Strangelove's guy. Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State at the time, has a huge stake in the outcome because she wants to run for president in 2016. Anybody votes for her to do anything except to maybe jump off a bridge should just pack their bags and leave the United States of America. As even the fact that they replaced her has to tell you this is so bad. Like, they never resign, they never quit, they never get fired, they never go to jail. This is so bad. Unleashed an emotional outburst. What difference does it make? You're going to vote for somebody that says that about killing Americans, loyal Americans, good Americans? 700 special operations veterans, family members of those lost in Benghazi, 135 legislators, 3 senators. Wow, they got the goods on 97 other senators. A special investigatory committee is being proposed, but it'll be like the all-encompassing committees, that, like the Warren Commission and the 9/11 Commission, that will look over all the evidence, not take 90% of it, shred the other 10%, and come up with a predetermined conclusion. Where was Obama during the attack, and what was he doing? He evidently did not order a rescue operation. Well, see, he was out on the back nine, you know, smoking a little of that funny stuff. Retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin from the Army Ranger says there's no acceptable explanation for not rescuing Americans. And it's a shame. See, he got to be a lieutenant general. I'd never get that job. There is a very acceptable explanation. They murdered him. So what's baffling is there was no attempt to rescue the Americans, not even to recover their bodies. Baffling. He got to be a lieutenant general, and he knows baffling. It's not baffling. It's cut to the chase simple, man. They wanted his ass. Then they talk about the subject of impeachment. Well, he should have been impeached a long time ago because he didn't have any ID and it was fake. He wasn't born in America. But you see all these guys do all the predictive programming on 98% of the people's brains, and they're bobbleheads, you know. It takes time, hard work, and effort to form a thought. Then there's, of course, his fast and furious gun running operation. At least we're the only show to call him a cop killer. He gave guns to drug dealers in the United States who shot 2 border patrolmen, and their families have to sue the American government to get some kind of justice. They were good Americans. They were good cops. They got blown away. Obama's a cop killer. So what's the big diff? He kills a few military people and an ambassador. He appoints all his unvetted czars. And he comes up with his bullshit about the anti-Muslim video. Of course, they all deny that now, even though when he spoke at the United Nations, which is on YouTube, he said that 6 times on September the 25th. And then, just like Sandy Hook, just like the marathon bombing, there was never any kind of protest at the Benghazi compound that night. Had to use my orange highlighter pen on that one and put a big line there because you don't want to miss that. There was never any kind of protest at the Benghazi compound that night. They made it up. Cover for the murder. They made up Sandy Hook. They made up the Boston Marathon bombing. How long you going to take that from our good Nazi friend? How long you going to pay money for this? How long? I come here all the time. I ask, you know, there's a donate button on our website that you can donate money. See, we can change the world. It's all you have to do is change the channel, but we need a channel for people to change to. You gave me enough money to be a bigger channel and a bigger channel and a bigger channel and a bigger channel. Sooner or later, there isn't going to be any of this even to put in your bird cage. Don't Don't give money to cable TV. Don't give it to the newspapers. Don't give it to the corporate fascists who are trying to take over the world. There's an old saying Chairman Mao had. He was very accurate. The capitalists will give you the money which you use to buy the bullets to shoot him with. You will give the money to the people to give you the words who will convince you to either shoot yourself or amputate parts of your body. It's a little bit wrong in the programming. And we thank all the people who donate to this show and help keep it possible, because it may be the only hope. Everybody else seems to be CIA. Of course, Mitt Romney was there at the time in Israel, you know, trying to get money to knock off Obama in the election at the time. We're watching everything live on video to say, kill that mother, kill that mother. Because he's just the other part. He's the Manchurian candidate from the prison. He's the other side of the, you know, it doesn't matter you get the left hook or the right hook. They're punching you in the chops. Oh, thanks, I needed that. So what does he say now as the CIA candidate for the Republican Party in a past election? We have to give the president the benefit of a doubt. He was raised by Hitler in it. Oh, pardon me, he didn't say that part. So they cut out a lot of the words because they didn't want members of Congress to abuse what was in a lot of these official documents, because they weren't paying attention to the warnings. So they changed the word consulate to diplomatic facility, and in reality it wasn't even that, it was a safe house. Gregory Hicks, deputy mission chief in Tripoli, expressed frustration with the lack of the military response in the incident, telling lawmakers he believed a second attack would have been deterred by a swift reaction. Official review of the attack saying it focused too much on low-ranking officials, systemic failures, and leadership and management deficiencies at all senior levels. Hillary took responsibility in January after her, you know, timeout period. And then what happened to it too, right? You know, there's many areas. I guess we'll go into some others. Let's show the video on Hillary and the Benghazi thing. Listen to her own words.
September 11th, Benghazi, Libya. Terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda kill 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is briefed at 2 a.m. by the ambassador's deputy that it was, in fact, terrorism.
I briefed her on developments.
Yet 2 days later, Secretary Clinton and others blamed protesters and
an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
An offensive video.
Deputy Hicks was shocked.
I was stunned. My jaw dropped. I was embarrassed.
But when Hicks dared to question why Secretary Clinton and others were contradicting the facts he told her, Clinton's chief of staff ordered him not to talk to Congress.
There was a concerted effort to shut him up. He was demoted. He was chewed out, and he essentially says he now has a job with no real responsibilities.
A 22-year diplomatic veteran, intimidated for daring to blow the whistle, all under Hillary Clinton's watch. How could this happen? Why did she blame a video? And was she part of a cover-up?
Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
The difference is a cover-up and 4 American lives that deserve the truth.
Okay, you can vote for somebody like that. Ooh, echoes.
September
Okay, you can
11th.
vote for somebody like that. Right? There's a campaign motto. Change. Hope. What difference does it make? I can see the billions just lining up to go into her campaign cost. What difference does it make? I'm the president. I got my finger in the button. What difference does it make? Who cares if this city's here or that city's over there? Wipe them all out. Excuse me, how's my money doing in the Cayman Islands? Oh, good. Thank you. You gotta wonder. And then you got the guys who were supposed to have killed Osama bin Laden, who was already dead anyway, because these guys told you he was dead in 2001, but then they told you he was alive when they killed him 10 years later, and you believed it. And of all the media in the whole world, what's the only place that said, you know, I got a guy to read a sign on the wall of the compound in Urdu. It was a girls' school. I found in the British press the name of the guy next door, who did a big speech in Urdu, but, you know, basically told us the truth, that there was no Osama there, this was all bullshit. They can make you think up is down. And as Goebbels used to say, he was the propaganda minister in Germany, they can turn, you know, left into right, right into left, they can do anything. Although his specific words are, we can turn a circle into a square. Because you believe this shit, so the circle's a square. So they killed the whole team. SEAL Team 6 killed them in this accident. Their families are out there. I got a better video from one of our fans, a more up-to-date one about, you know, now that they're starting to get up a level or two to know that they killed them on purpose. They put them in a helicopter that was as slow as a school bus. They gave them no cover fire. They walked, it's like they used to call in Vietnam, fragging. You know, they fragged them. They just didn't throw your own grenade in the tent to blow them up. They made them get into a place where they're going to get killed. And it appears they got killed by the enemy as opposed to the masters at home, the string pullers. Wipe out the whole load of them. And there's more guys lined up to, you know, get in those hot seats. They killed the officer who was in charge of SEAL Team 6. It was a suicide. I think he was supposed to have shot himself in Afghanistan. They got him too. So then Natural News, Mike Adams says the false flag-o-meter is reaching the red zone. We got their balls on the fire. So they're going to pull, like they've always done, they even give them names now. You know, they call it the Clinton method, have a wag the dog false flag attack. And he's saying, it's got to be good this time. Like, we need lots of bloody dead kids. Gun them down, blow them up, smear them all over the place. So these guys can change the channel, change the programming for you. And like good little sheeple, you'll follow along. Wherever they fart, let me smell your ants first. Instead of thinking for yourself to say, why is it every time, you know, like we got them? I mean, like, just got them. We're ready to, like, you know, almost lay charges. There's a wag the dog scenario. You know, if I was a sentient creature, I might think there's a pattern to this. Wow, I wish I was a sentient creature. But I have to watch reality TV or sports or something like that, or the soaps, because these guys will just tell me what I need to know real fast. So that's the next thing. And the big thing is, maybe they even told us to target cities in this, you know, this one here with the map. Just, you know, put a little ice cream on top, shove it in your face. False flags are the primary way that they change the channel. Or they'll sacrifice a less important agent or mission to put it on the front page and change the channel. They did that with the Boston Marathon bombing. It was getting hot, man. You see the guys working in the back room, BOSOF factor, beads of sweat on forehead. If you don't know what that is, very important. You have to learn these terms. BOSOF, man. Oh, man, it's like up to 15. I don't know what to do, man. Hey, why don't we burn that asshole in Cleveland? I didn't like him anyway, you know. He was one of our worst agents. You know, he was holding them babes prisoner or something like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. And now everybody focuses in on Cleveland. Nobody talks about the Boston Marathon bombing anymore. We changed the channel, we changed the programming. Brilliant. The case for impeachment. Many things. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, the guy they sent a bomb to, that didn't get a lot of stations. Found out the president's birth certificate was fraudulently obtained. Like, you know, according to like court standards, legal standards, he's a sheriff. But of course, he's not a sheriff over the United States to arrest the prick. Slaughtered all kinds of innocent people in Afghanistan with his drone attacks. Sometimes he gets them, sometimes he don't. So we're looking at, 43 out of 95. 43 missed, Al-Qaeda strikes, and the other portion, they got him. So that makes him a war criminal, really. So he gives arms to Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is supposed to be a sworn enemy of the United States. We're at war with Al-Qaeda, right? You're arming the enemy. Didn't the Bushes do that like in World War II, Trading with the Enemy Act? They gave fuel to the Nazi planes so they could drop down on Americans and kill them bastards. And you voted for him for president twice. So then Stevens is begging for help. The AFRICOM commander, General Ham, had activated a special forces team within minutes of learning what was going on at the embassy. He's probably a well-trained military man. So he was arrested and sent home, because he was probably going to do it on his own initiative like a man with real balls. So then we look at, killing of the ambassador, 3 other Americans who were there trying to save the ambassador, killing American citizens with these, death orders. Anwar al-Awlaki, American citizen, killed in Yemen, his son later. And then they come up with all these false flag attacks, like the underwear bomber, from Christmas in 2009, the passenger jet over Detroit, and nothing with the process of law. The other guy here, Samir Khan, he ran an online magazine, so killed him too. It's brilliant. Nobody in Congress says anything or will do anything, because they're all gutless. Oh well. I guess it's now time for the secret meetings. Yes, let's have some secret meetings. Well, it's not so secret. It used to be a conspiracy theory. I remember, years ago, I called into CFRB. That's our big radio mind control station here in Toronto. It's probably the most popular talk show city-wise in Canada. People pay for that shit. So I'm talking to the host, Michael Corrin, who's now a Christian leader, and on all these Christian networks and all this sort of stuff, is the leader of the faithful. He even denies. I should email him. I got his email address here, and just, pie in the face. As I talked to him about the Council on Foreign Relations, and the son of a bitch has the nerve to tell me that's a conspiracy theory. There's no such thing. I've been listening for the last 2 days that the Prime Minister of Canada, and I have this news release from the Prime Minister's office, right here, that he's in New York, attending the Council on Foreign Relations meeting. What the hell is my Prime Minister doing talking to a conspiracy theory? He must be mad. He should be locked up. He's a fool. So I tell that jerk, who hundreds of thousands of people probably listen to with just raptured attention, that, there's a magazine store at the bottom of 2 St. Clair West. And they sell a magazine called Foreign Affairs, which is the magazine of this conspiracy theory. Costs $7 or something, too. It's not cheap. Probably $10 now, and everybody don't even buy the blasted thing. It's just a conspiracy theory. So he's telling you these lies, and people, let me smell your farts. Oh, isn't it wonderful? That's the best shit we could ever get. And they take the field. Why? Because you let them. God gave you choice. You could listen to something else. You could pay for something else, but you like shit. So you eat shit. There's another big secret meeting. Let's show the video on billionaires descend on Kiowa, I guess, in South Carolina.
The sound of Learjets filled the area of Johns Island Friday afternoon as a long, star-studded list of folks left after attending a 2-day conference on Kiowa Island. Officials with the island confirmed to me that the list included billionaire philanthropists like TV queen Oprah Winfrey, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, businessman Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates himself. The guests, who first started getting the Low Country's attention on Thursday, rented out all 255 rooms at the Sanctuary Hotel for the Foundation's conference. Details of the meeting were not released. The mayor seems quite excited to have the famous folks on his island. He released a statement to News 2 saying, quote, "We wish them luck with what they are doing. If they want to play golf, they couldn't have picked a better weekend. We are glad we could offer them great weather." Throughout the afternoon, as many as 4 Learjets sat on the tarmac waiting for their famous passengers. And around 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, an unknown woman could be seen boarding one of the planes. Quickly after she boarded that plane and one other left the airport. We attempted to track the flights of the planes, but the flight routes were blocked. We do, however, know that this plane is linked to Hartford, Connecticut, and this one to Australia.
I don't have a plane. Okay, the noise. I don't have a plane. Got a bicycle, got a truck, don't have a plane. But I'm not going to South Carolina to play golf. I don't think they were either. I think they were going to do what they always do best. We're going to take over the world. It's like Pinky and the Brain. What are we going to do tonight? We're going to take over the world. Of course, it's a secret. You can't know what's going on. But if you got some time and you're looking at the replay of this show, stop it. Look at the tail numbers on those planes and run them through Google. A lot of them with the FAA are registered. You can see who owns the plane. Maybe we can get some names and addresses and find out a little more. And see, they won't tell you that. It's against the law. Break the code there. You know, you can't tell anybody what's really going on. You just have to deceive them as much as possible. So maybe the locals are just going, look at all these Lear jets, man. They're like mosquitoes. So they got to report it locally. It just doesn't become a story outside of the little box until you turn to this box. Bilderberg Conference is coming up in June. I guess there's really no too much sense. June 6th to 8th. It's going to be in a hotel in Watford, United Kingdom. Hertfordshire police are going to protect all the miserable Nazi fascists, because that's what the Bilderberg Group is, eh? It's just, it's the Fourth Reich. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, colonel in the SS. He founded the group, secret. I say German at secret meetings. It's a foregone conclusion what they're doing. We're taking over the world. Stupid idiots, let us do. So that's what they're up to. And they control all our leaders through money, finance, bribery, the rest of it. The G8 summit's supposed to come up in Ireland. Hotel Erne, Fermanagh. I think I got a picture of it handy, so we might as well use it. I did look for it. There's this cozy little place. What are you going to do there? We're going to take over the world. So they're probably working on the bank crisis, how to steal all the money out of your accounts and all that kind of stuff. So, all the intelligence agencies will be, really working up, I think. There's only one big difference between this one. I'm looking over some of the prices they're going to pay, like to do security on this. And it's a joke, man. 1,350 officers costing the taxpayer £3.8 million. And £1 million for spy drones. Yeah, look at what they did here in Toronto. Like, we spent over $1 billion. The Irish, not even close. I think I feel something in my butt, like I got screwed. But then money goes missing all over Ottawa. Maybe we just say quickly, they lost $3.1 billion in our terror money. See, before it was the Liberals, and money kind of disappeared in the gun registry, so the Conservatives got rid of the gun registry because there's more money to get lost in terrorism. But nobody says they took any money, but they must have a cabinet position called the Minister of Money Laundering, working in the shadows. I think I know who he is, too. But that's just idle speculation, right? You see the money? $3.1 billion. It's got to take up a lot of space. We could probably fill this room here, big room here, with all that kind of money. Well, they hold you. BP Shell London headquarters raided by police over price rigging. Nice. European Union after them. They also raided Norwegian oil company and the price reporting agency Platts. Oh, as if we didn't know. You go to the gas pumps anywhere, the prices are rigged. Like that's so obvious, like the air we breathe. Eyewitness. This is why they changed the channel in the Boston shootouts and all this crap. Eyewitnesses. A whole bunch of them. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev did not shoot Boston cop. Did not have a gun. Didn't have any protesters at the consulate, embassy, safe house in Benghazi either. They make it up all the time. So this story was just falling apart completely. InfoWars did this one. The brothers were trying to surrender when they came under a barrage of gunfire. Audio from the scene, which they never play. The suspects are yelling, "Chill out! We didn't do it!" As bullets seem to fly in every direction because they want to kill them. They must have had the luck of the Irish, to get as far as they did without being completely blasted away. And then they killed one cop, the MIT cop, because he was friends with the older Sarnov, and practically killed the second guy who was friends with the MIT cop. They all went to the gym for boxing and knew the Sarnovs too. He didn't have a gun. He killed those cops. Then they came up with a bullshit story. Well, they were trying to steal his gun. So I shot him. But he didn't have a gun. So how could you shoot him? That's like, the news we used to get from what we thought was the Soviet Union or something like that. It's brilliant, brilliant. We're getting near the end, I guess. You're still awake? How much time we got? Yes? 1, 2, 5, 12? 1? Okay, I guess we're getting down to the end of the race here, which is a shame, because it's bloody murder, and that's what we posted on our site. Usually don't have time to look into the smaller stories, bloody murder, but this local man, Tim Bosma, was hijacked and ultimately found dead. So I found his desert racing buddy. They post things on Twitter, learn how to steal cars, gone in 60 seconds. And then his buddy, the one under arrest for murder one. Now, I'm either going to sleep or I'm going to do heroin. Del Millard, inheritor of Millard Air here in Canada, with all kinds of properties and all this kind of stuff. Well, they went desert racing and stuff like that. So I tagged his desert racer as a person of interest. Police cleared him, I hear. There's the poor chap with his wife and child. They burned his body. He's dead. And then, just as a quick example of how the media plays with your brain. While I was cooking breakfast, I just turned on the news to listen to the day. They have the update. They found his body. It's on all the stations. And the local news guy comes in afterwards on AM 570 in Kitchener. He's got 37 years experience. This guy's slick, man, slick. So he gets you all worked up and emotional about the fact that this man's been killed. And he says, we never remember the victims, just the killers. He says, I can remember Clifford Olson and other killers or whatever. And then he goes in, and then we have to talk about the school massacre here in Canada, the École Polytechnique, and the fact that we work so hard to remember the victims. And then there's 9/11. Yes, 9/11. 9/11's got absolutely nothing to do with this story, neither does that other one. But see, what they're doing is they're massaging your brain to program it. Once they say École Polytechnique, you say right away, yes, I'm angry, I have to get even for something, so let's do gun control. Yes, 9/11, we have to get Muslims, we have to have terror laws, we have to spend more money, give more money to that. They only lost 3.1 billion, they need 5.6, 10.8, 100 billion. It's all a mind game. And you fall for it all the time. Welcome aboard. This is Conspiracy Cafe. I'm your host, George Freund. We march to a different drummer. God, he's upstairs. We try to find the truth. Jesus said that. The truth will set you free. Guess what? You listen to what I say. You're free. Support us. Help us out. See you same that time, same that channel. Next week, Tuesday. Good night.